I work at a cemetery that buries the same man every night. Worked the night shift at a small cemetery on the outskirts of a town no one seems to be from. That's not poetic language, I mean it. Every visitor, mourner, or grave tender I've ever spoken to claims to be just passing through. No one claims the town. No one lives in the houses near the gates. There's a gas station nearby, but the clerk doesn't talk unless you ask for a receipt, and then he just stares at you until you walk away. That's not even the weirdest part. The weirdest part is the man we bury every night. Not different men. Not different bodies. The same man. Every night, around 2:14 a.m., the fog rolls in, thick and deliberate. And somewhere in the mist, I hear wheels on gravel, as if something heavy is being dragged through the dirt. There's no hearse. No procession. But when I turn around, the casket is there again. Just outside plot 39C. Same as the night before. Same as every night. And inside that coffin is the body of Charles Eli Mercer, a man I have buried over 70 times. Same name on the plaque. Same stitched shut mouth. Same left hand clenched into a fist. And always, the same faint smell of burnt cloth and candle wax, like an old ritual clinging to the folds of his burial suit. Sometimes the suit is darker, sometimes the eyes twitch under the lids, but it's always him. My job is not to ask questions. My job is to follow the rules. Rules for night burial at Hillshade Cemetery, 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. only. 1. When the fog reaches your knees, open the tool shed. The key will already be in your pocket. 2. Never speak Charles's name aloud while holding a shovel. 3. Do not look directly at the casket while lowering it into the ground. It reacts to recognition. 4. If the body whispers from within the coffin, respond only with the phrase, "Rest deeper, traveler." No more. No less. 5. You must finish burying him before the church bell chimes once. If you hear 2 chimes, leave immediately and do not look back, even if something calls your name. 6. Once buried, place the sprig of dead lavender atop the soil. If it wilts instantly, say nothing and remain still until sunrise. 7. Never return to the same grave twice. The next night, a new one will be ready. But never the same. I didn't believe them at first, the rules, the rituals, the idea that a single corpse could return again and again like a cursed moon phase. My first week, I joked about it. I buried Charles while whistling. I used my phone flashlight to peek inside the coffin before lowering it. Thought it was all just some weird local tradition, or maybe I was part of an art installation. That night, I heard something knocking from underground. Not scratching. Knocking. Rhythmic. Intelligent. The next day, I found all 4 tires on my car slashed in clean, identical lines. On my windshield, smeared in dirt and something darker, was the phrase. You saw him. He saw you. The grave I buried him in was gone. Not disturbed, gone. The land was flat, the soil untouched, like it had never been dug. I checked the records. Plot 39C didn't exist. It had never existed. I found a funeral program under my coat with a black and white photo of myself in it. Under my name, the words, "You did not finish the burial." Since then, I've obeyed every rule. I arrive before the fog. I never bring music. I never check my phone after 2 o'clock. I treat the process with reverence, like a holy routine carved into stone. But the cemetery isn't content. It changes sometimes, trees in different places, gates locked that were open the night before, strange symbols etched into the marble of untouched headstones. Once, I heard 2 voices whispering in Latin behind the mausoleum. I don't know Latin, but my nose started bleeding and my chest filled with cold water just from listening. And Charles. He's changing too. Last night, his eyes were open before I even unlatched the coffin. Open, and blinking. He didn't scream. He just mouthed something at me. I couldn't hear it, but I could feel it, like my thoughts weren't mine anymore. Like I remembered a life I never lived. Like I was him. I buried him anyway. But not before he smiled. I'm scared the rules aren't about survival anymore. I think they're about delaying transformation. Because lately, I've been waking up with dirt under my nails. And once, just once, I caught my reflection in the cemetery gate at dawn, and my mouth had been sewn shut. If you ever get a job offer at a graveyard with no formal application, don't answer the phone. Don't sign anything. Because if you show up once, he'll remember you. And once he remembers you, you become the next plot. I thought I could trick it, the cycle, the man, the memory. I started taking sleeping pills before my shift. Not enough to lose consciousness, just enough to dull my perception. I figured if I couldn't clearly see him, if I couldn't remember the details, maybe he wouldn't remember me either. Maybe I could just dig a hole, lower a box, drop some lavender, and make it to sunrise without imprinting his damn curse into my bones. It worked. For a while. Until one night, the box was already open. The casket lay tilted in the dirt, its lid cracked halfway like a yawn. No fog that night. No drag marks. Just the coffin waiting for me, open and empty. My hands started shaking, the shovel fell from my grip, and the soil beneath me felt loose, like skin stretched too thin over something writhing. That's when I noticed it, a second grave, freshly dug, directly behind me. The placard at its head was clean, new. My name was on it. First and last. But not how I write it, how I used to write it in high school. The handwriting wasn't mine anymore, but it had once been. The dates carved beneath weren't my birthday or today's date. They were tomorrow's. I ran. Not heroically. Not silently. I sprinted out of Hillshade Cemetery with tears in my eyes and mud on my shoes. I left the gate open. I didn't care. I drove until my GPS came back, until I saw street lights, until I heard human voices that didn't echo like whispers in a tomb. I checked into a motel. I called off work. I told myself I'd quit. But that night, my dreams were full of shovels hitting wood. Of whispering from below. And worse, of someone knocking on the inside of my skull like it was a coffin lid. The next morning, I checked my arms. Dirt under my nails. Splinters in my knuckles. And on my boots. A single dead sprig of lavender. I tried to talk to someone about it. My sister, Anna. She's a nurse, grounded, skeptical, the type of person who would rather trust a thermometer than a priest. She listened patiently as I told her everything, the nightly burials, the repeating corpse, the rules. She smiled kindly when I finished, nodded, and said, "You've always had vivid dreams. You're just not sleeping again, are you?" When I swore I wasn't hallucinating, she sighed and said, "All right. Let's go visit this cemetery of yours." That night, I drove her to Hillshade. I watched her expression the whole ride. She seemed amused at best. But when we arrived, the cemetery was different. The trees were too close. The gate was too wide. The fog was already there, thicker than usual, curling around her ankles as we stepped through. She stopped at the first headstone. Her voice broke. "This is Mom's name. But our mother was cremated. We scattered her ashes off Old Pine Ridge 7 years ago." I told Anna that, and she shook her head, tears welling, her fingers running across the inscription. There was a second name carved into the stone, hastily added below Mom's. Anna. She turned to leave. So did I, but the gate wasn't there anymore. It wasn't gone, it had moved. Shifted somehow. Now standing behind us. And in front of it stood Charles. Not lying in a coffin. Not waiting. Standing. He wasn't stitched up anymore. His mouth was wide open. His eyes were full of dirt. Black rivulets ran from the sockets down to his chest like ink tears. And worst of all? He was smiling like he knew us. Like we'd been doing this forever. Anna screamed. I grabbed her wrist. We ran, but the ground wouldn't hold. Our feet sank in like wet sand. Every step felt heavier. And beneath us, I could hear it again. Knocking. Somehow we made it out. Not through the gate, we woke up on the sidewalk outside the cemetery, hours later. At exactly dawn. With bruises on our ribs and scratches on our backs, as if we'd been pulled through gravel. She doesn't speak to me anymore. She won't answer calls. Her number goes straight to voicemail. And when I drove past her apartment, someone else was living there. A woman with long dark hair who opened the door before I even knocked and whispered, "You're late for tonight's service." That was 2 days ago. Tonight is different. The grave is already dug again, but this time, there are 2 coffins. One of them is empty. The other? The other holds a mirror. Not a reflection. A mirror. Cold, polished, and perfectly clean, despite resting in soil. When I leaned in, I didn't see myself. I saw Charles, burying me. And he was smiling. The knock is coming from the shed now. The crows aren't flying away, they're watching. The lavender has bloomed. Full, fresh, wrong. I know what that means. Tonight's the last burial. And it's mine. So if you find this letter, this story, this confession. If you ever take a job where they give you a shovel and rules, and the fog already knows your name, run. Don't bury him. Because the second you do, you let him live. It's the only thing that makes sense now. This isn't about death anymore, it never was. It's about exchange. Each time I bury him, he gets a little stronger, a little clearer, a little more real. And I don't. I woke up this morning with dirt in my mouth. Not just on my tongue, embedded in my teeth. I brushed for 15 minutes, and it still tasted like soil soaked in rainwater and formaldehyde. When I looked in the mirror, I saw something shift behind my pupils, like the iris was floating. Detached. My phone had 6 missed calls. All from a number I didn't recognize. The voicemails were all the same, a gravelly voice whispering, "Wrong plot. Try again." I haven't seen Anna in days. I know she's not gone, not in the physical sense. I saw her just last night. But she wasn't her. She was standing at the gates of Hillshade Cemetery, arms folded across her chest, eyes closed. Her lips were sewn shut with lavender stems, bleeding at the corners. She didn't move. Just breathed. Shallow. Mechanical. And the worst part? She was humming. The same funeral hymn I heard in my dream last week. The one Charles mouthed from inside the coffin before I finished burying him. Time is slipping. I checked the calendar at the cemetery office. It read April 12th. My phone says June 3rd. My wristwatch doesn't tick anymore, it hums. When I asked the gravedigger, the one who never speaks, only nods, what day it was, he handed me a folded slip of paper. It read, "There are only nights now. You broke the day." I tried to call in sick. No answer. When I checked my work record, I wasn't listed as an employee anymore. But the cemetery is always unlocked for me. The tools always laid out. The coffin always ready. Tonight, the casket wasn't even underground. It was already inside the chapel. Laid out beneath stained glass that didn't match the sun. Candles burning upside down. And on the walls, photographs of me I've never taken. In each, I'm older. Gaunter. My posture sagging. In one of them, I'm wearing the same burial suit Charles always wears. The label on the pocket says property of 39C. I've seen enough to know what that means. Every time I bury him, I feel the seams of myself loosen. My memories fray. Names drift like fog. I wake up unsure if I'm going to work or being sent back to be buried again. My dreams now start with a knock, always the same, rhythmic 4, and end with me staring at my own grave, freshly dug, with no mourners. No flowers. Just a note pinned to the headstone. You remembered too much. And now I'm remembering things I've never lived. A house I've never owned. A mother with no face. A brother who died in a fire I didn't cause. I can feel Charles whispering from beneath the soil, feeding me lives like worms through the roots. Every identity I've ever carried is being eaten from the inside. Last night, the fog rolled in early. At midnight sharp, I heard the shovel drag across the gravel, but I hadn't touched it. It moved by itself. Across the grounds, the graves pulsed, breathing in sync with the church bell, which now rings without clappers, without hands. The air had changed. Heavy with static, like an incoming storm, or a signal trying to break through. And then the casket opened. Not with ceremony, not with grace. It burst. Like the body inside couldn't wait to escape anymore. And Charles. He stood. For the first time. His arms slack. His mouth fully unstitched. Teeth like gravestones. Eyes wet with soil. He looked at me and whispered. "I've waited long enough. It's your turn to remember the dirt." I ran. I didn't bury him. But now I feel him inside me, not metaphorically. Physically. Like something moving through my spine. Like my marrow has been rearranged. When I try to speak his name aloud, my tongue turns to sand. When I try to say mine, the words come out hollow. Tonight is different again. No casket. No grave. Just a mirror, standing upright in the center of the cemetery. The reflection is wrong. It blinks before I do. It smiles when I cry. It raises a shovel when I try to run. And then I understand. I'm already buried. Somewhere beneath this place, my real body lies rotting, maybe since the first night I broke a rule. Or maybe since the night I let him live. Maybe Charles was just the beginning, the prototype. The first man to be forgotten properly. Now it's my turn. And someone new will take my place. A fresh worker. A new set of rules. A new name on the grave. Maybe even yours. So please. If you get a call offering you work in a cemetery you've never heard of, If you dream of fog and dirt and someone whispering, rest deeper, traveler. If you ever see a casket with your initials engraved before you've died, do not finish the burial. Do not look in the mirror. Do not let him smile. Because once you do, he remembers. And once he remembers, you will never be you again.